for another piano lesson. So I hope you've been able to use the skills and techniques and knowledge that's been presented to you in these video lessons, and you've been able to apply them to songs. Maybe you've gone on the internet and tried to find songs that you'd like to learn, chord sheets or whatever, and you've been able to use the chord knowledge or the scale knowledge to be able to play them. But one thing you might have run into is a few different symbols that you've seen on chord sheets that you don't know what they mean. And so today's lesson we're going to go over that. So let's just go over the first and probably easiest one that you may have seen. If you've seen N.C. that stands for no chord. In other words, it's like an instrumental break at that point. Maybe like the whole, on the original recording of the song, like everybody drops out, all the instruments drop out, and then you go ahead and continue to sing. Or the singer of the song continues to sing while the instruments drop out. So it would mean like you'd be playing up to that point and then you'd stop. So maybe you see there's a C chord, then you see NC, and then you come back in with the next part of the song, or whatever. All right? So NC, that one's easy. The next one I want to go over before I get into all the different numbers, because you might have seen things like C2 or E5 or F major 7, F minor 7, G sus or G4, things like that. We're going to get into all of those. But before that, I want to get into slash chords. So you may have also seen something like, let's say, D slash F sharp. So what that means is D over F sharp. So let's take a D chord. So far we've been doing everything in C, so I'm going to try and vary it up a little bit in this lesson. So let's do D. So here's your D chord, your D major chord, right? So a D over F sharp. Remember, in last lesson we talked about your left hand kind of being the bass player and playing the roots of the chords. So if you're just playing a regular D chord, you'd be playing D octaves or just D note in the bass with your left hand. So you have the D triad up here. Again, please try and use different inversions. Right, so don't just always play D in root position. Try and use different inversions. I'm going to use them in root position because it's easier for you to see on this video, but please, please, please be utilizing different inversions so that you can kind of vary up your playing and it doesn't always sound the same playing root position. And also it avoids you'll avoid all that jumping around over the piano trying to find the root position and place your thumb on whatever note that is the root of the chord. So D over F sharp, again, I'm in root position just for visually. It's easier for you to see. So traditionally you'd be playing D in the left hand as the bass note because that is the root of the chord after all. But if you see D slash F sharp, it means to play your D chord in the right hand. Think of it like a fraction. D over on top of, right? So the right is higher. So this is up on top, F sharp on the bottom. So your left hand or the bass player and your left hand on the piano is playing the note F sharp. So it's D over F sharp. All right? So it'd be the same thing if it's, let's say, G over B. So that's G, B. So you might see this, let's say, in this context. C, G over B, A minor, and F, for example. All right? So that's slash chords. Obviously that works, and you can apply that to any slash chord now. All right, let's talk about twos for a second. So you might have seen something like A2. So your traditional A chord, right? If you just saw A, you'd be playing A, C sharp, and E, 1, 3, 5, with an A in the bass. All right? A2, remember when we talked about triads, we talked about it being the 1, the 3, and the 5 of the chord. So now when you see these other numbers, what they're telling you to do is vary something or change something within the structure of that triad. So A2 would be playing 2 instead of 3. So that's A2. So you might even want to add these in. So the cool thing about popular music is because these chord sheets are, a lot of times they won't, sometimes they'll go really basic with you and they won't give any 2s or 4s or 7s or slashes or anything like that, but you can actually add them in as a piano player if you're going to do your own arrangement of the song. And so if they just have a C chord up there, sometimes it's perfectly okay, even if you're playing with other people, it's perfectly okay to play a C2 instead of just a C, if you want to vary it up and make it a little bit more interesting. Okay? So that's a 2. So that would be C2. We just did A2 instead of A2. You're changing the 3 to a 2. If you see add 2, sometimes you'll have A and then like in parentheses you'll say add 2, right? So, or add 3, or A2 add 3, or something, so there's all different variations of these, and people write them down differently. That would just be to do both the 2 and the 3. All right? So A2, A add 2, or add 3, or whatever. All right? So again, you can apply these to any chord. I'm just trying to pick random ones so that we can, we could get away from just doing everything based off of C. All right? So let's say maybe you've seen G4 or anything 4, F4, whatever. 4 and sus are pretty synonymous. All right? So again, if you know that this is a G chord, that's a G chord. You already know, we just explained it, that this would be a G2, taking the 3 of the chord, again it's 1, 3, 5, taking that 3, changing it to a 2. Like we talked about in the triads, pretty much the 1 and the 5 are not really going to change. They're always going to be pretty constant, all right? There's very, very few exceptions to that, which we won't even get into because they happen probably less than 1% of the time in popular music. So 1, 3, and 5, that would be G2, so I'm sure you can guess what G4 would be. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's G4. Again, you could play these in any inversion, so the same inversion rules apply. So G4, you can actually play it like this if you want. I'm playing the same notes. It would be G, C, D. Now I'm playing D, G, C. So now you have even more inversions to learn. But don't be overwhelmed. The same concept applies. Just these 3 notes that we're using, we can play them anywhere, in any order, as long as they're being played. All right? So this is G4 or G sus. Sus is short for suspended, right? So it's like, and you can, if you really listen to it, you can kind of hear why it's called suspended. It feels like you're being like suspended or held up above something, and then it's going to drop down and kind of relax you. You're going to get back home, basically. So we're suspended and then we're released. So here's again the suspended or the 4. So a lot of times you'll notice G sus followed by the regular chord G, or whatever sus. D sus followed by D, F sharp sus followed by F sharp. Not every time, but there's a lot of times where it will be followed by that because of that sound of release, that kind of relaxation back into the regular chord. So you're suspended and then release. Sus, release. Okay? G4, regular G. All right? Lastly, oh no, not lastly, we have one more before I get into the 7s. You might have seen things like E5. So your E chord would be E, G sharp, B, right? E5, this is kind of something that if there's any guitar players out there watching, you already kind of know what this means, because 5s basically mean power chords for guitarists. If you don't know what that means and you're just a new piano player, then you can totally ignore that. E5 means that you just take out the 3 completely. You're going to play E and the 5th. So E and the 5, and the 5th note above it, so that's it. Alright, same thing for whatever note you want to start on. B flat, your B flat chord would be here, B flat 5. I'm not playing the middle note, I'm just playing the root and the 5th. Again, you can switch it up. It does not have to be in root position, so to speak. You can play inversions on all of the things that I'm discussing with you today. All right. So now, lastly, I want to talk about 7s. All right. So you may have seen, let's go back to C for now. C major 7. So here's our C chord, our C major chord. C major 7. We already figured out that this is 2. 1, 2. This is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So obviously I'm sure you can figure it out. 1, 3, 5, if that's 5, 6, 7. So yes, the 7 is there. And all of these will be up on my website at anthonylabruno.com/lessons. You can find the fingerings to any chord, and if not, if you forget my website or whatever, you can always just Google it. How do I play a C major 7? I'm sure you can find tons of fingering diagrams and images for you to print out and whatever. All right? So C major 7 is taking a C major chord and adding the 7th note. So a major 7 is actually a half step from the octave, right? So it's the 7th note of what would be a major scale. from the root. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the reason I went back to the key of C for this one. Again, you're going to have to use these concepts and apply them to other keys as you venture out into different keys. But if you're still kind of hanging out in C, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this part of the lesson in C. All right, so we have our major scale. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's the 7th, hence C major 7. Now what if you saw C minor 7? Okay, remember, this is C major, this is C minor. Okay, so C minor 7, it'll be abbreviated. By the way, the major 7 would be MAJ7 usually. C MAJ7 or whatever note MAJ7. And then the minor 7 would either be C MIN7 or just CM7. So it would just be a 7 tacked onto the end of a minor chord. Okay, so it would be your C minor, and then we're just adding the 7. You would think, oh, well, I just learned what that was. The 7 was here. That's, as you can probably hear, that's not a sound that you would hear in most popular music. In jazz, it would just be a C minor major 7, but that's not really common in the music that you're probably playing. So C minor 7 would actually, just like we lowered the third, we have C major to C minor. C major 7 would drop down to C minor 7. So it's C, E flat, G, like the C minor triad, and then the 7 would be the flattened version of the major 7, the minor version of that 7. So it's actually a whole step from the root octave. We said the major 7 was just a half step, the minor 7 is a whole step from the octave, if you're counting that way. If not, think of it the other way, just dropping down what would be the major 7 to the minor 7. Now you also may be thinking, oh my gosh, now I got to use 4 fingers to play these chords. Here's my advice to you. Since you're playing the root of the chord in your left hand anyway, you don't have to play the root in your right hand. So your C major 7 chord would be this, right? If I don't play the root, because I'm playing it down here anyway, now I can just comfortably play it like this. It's like an E minor chord, pretty much. So I'm playing 3, 5, 7 instead of 1, 3, 5, 7. You can play the 4 fingers if you like, and again, kind of figure out whatever's comfortable to you. But I prefer to let my left hand take care of the root and my right hand take care of the rest. And again, I can do whatever inversions I would like, as I've been saying for the whole lesson. All right? So that's major 7. The same thing would hold true for minor 7. I'm playing the root over here. No need to play it up here. So I got 3, 5, and 7. The minor 3, the 5, and the minor 7. And again, I can play it wherever I want. Alright, so that takes care of what in the world all those numbers and symbols mean on the chord sheets that are not your traditional major or minor chords. I hope this helps you out. I'm sorry that this was a longer lesson, but there was a lot to cover, and I hope you go through it nice and methodically and just kind of, be sure to pause, screenshot, do whatever you got to do, and also please go to my website and print out those resources, or at least screenshot them and keep them in your photo library so that you can go and reference them as you need to. Alright, so go ahead and practice those. Remember, use inversions throughout. Don't be scared to venture out. It's going to take some time. Again, I'm just giving you these lessons as kind of like as resources. I'm just giving you the information, letting you go on your own independently and use the information. So it might take you weeks or even months to digest one video lesson, even though I might be releasing them once a week or whatever the case may be. All right, so don't be discouraged. Go ahead and practice. Start slow. Speed it up as you get better and better. Challenge yourself, but always go back and reference the videos for the information and the resources available on anthonylibrino.com/lessons. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time for another lesson.